power isn't armies or treaties, it's soil, rivers, mountains, and oceans. America's geography ensures it can endure and rise again. Here's why America would still win, even if the tides of power shifted against it. Terrain of power. Observe the map closely. Continents tilt, oceans churn, borders shift, but at the center of the Western Hemisphere lies a landmass that seems almost designed for endurance. Two vast oceans flank it, the Atlantic to the east, a corridor linking distant continents, and the Pacific to the west, a restless expanse that separates the nation from rivals and connects it to Asia. Between these watery sentinels stretch mountains, plains, river valleys, and forests that run uninterrupted for hundreds of miles. What makes this arrangement exceptional is not the features themselves, but how they interact. The mountains form barriers and corridors. Rivers carve pathways to the coasts. Fertile plains lie protected at the heart of the continent. Together, they create a natural shield, a network of resources in transit, a structure that supports resilience and expansion. Analysts describe the U.S. as a hemispheric citadel, protected by wide oceans, an observation grounded as much in fact as it is in quiet awe. Before settlers raised cities, before trade networks spread globally, geography had already begun to favor one nation. Policies come and go. Governments rise, falter, and vanish. Wars sweep across the world. Yet the land endures, impartial and immovable. Mountains, plains, rivers, and coasts remain constant. Even if influence wanes or alliances fracture, the map itself does not betray its occupant. Geography does not tire. It does not surrender. It continues to tilt the balance, subtly, inexorably, toward the continent it shields, silent soil. In the heart of the continent lies a secret few nations possess, soil that sustains more than life. It sustains power. The Midwest stretches outward into the Great Plains, descending into fertile valleys. Here, loess and glacial deposits form deep, nutrient-rich ground capable of producing enormous yields of wheat, corn, soy, and fruit. Nature's generosity is quiet, consistent, and relentless. This abundance is rare. Europe's farmland is fragmented. China's arable land is constrained. Much of the Middle East relies on imports. Food is not merely sustenance, it is independence, leverage, survival. Countries that cannot feed themselves depend on others, their fates tied to trade routes and politics. The US, by contrast, holds an internal reservoir of resilience. Even if global supply chains collapse or allies falter, the land continues to produce, silently asserting power beyond diplomacy. Agriculture here is more than economics. It is strategy. It underpins export strength, stabilizes markets, and maintains internal stability. It allows populations to grow, industries to expand, and crises to be weathered. The farmland is a backbone few recognize, yet it is central to national endurance. The heartland does not need armies to defend it, nor treaties to protect it. It exists independently of human ambition. Its productivity persists through time, a quiet force upon which empires rise and fall. The soil is patient, it is unyielding, and in its consistency, it holds the seeds of long-term survival that few nations can match. Hidden highways. The land is productive, but the secret lies in its veins. Across the continent flows a network of rivers, lakes, and inland seas, each acting as a conduit for commerce, sustenance, and growth. The Mississippi River alone drains an immense portion of North America, channeling goods from farms, forests, and mines toward the Gulf. Its tributaries branch outward, linking distant regions in a silent web of transport, carrying not just products, but opportunity itself. Then there are the Great Lakes, freshwater giants that connect the interior to the Atlantic via the St. Lawrence Seaway. Cities far from the coast, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, function as inland ports, receiving and dispatching goods with surprising efficiency. These waterways predate highways, railroads, and modern logistics. They dictated where towns would prosper, where industries would emerge, and where wealth would accumulate. The advantage is structural. Internal transportation does not depend on foreign ports or contested shipping lanes. It remains, irrespective of global upheaval. Grain, timber, minerals, and manufactured goods move along paths forged by nature itself. Even if oceans were blocked, trade disrupted, or alliances fractured, this network would endure. Beyond commerce, these waterways shaped culture, settlement patterns, and political cohesion, quietly binding a vast nation together. Geography does not pause. Rivers continue their descent to the sea. Lakes remain open and navigable. The system persists, silent, invisible, indispensable. It does not negotiate with politics, treaties, or wars. Its constancy is a quiet reminder. Power flows along the land as surely as water does, and in America, it flows freely, internally and inexorably. Beneath the surface. Beneath the surface lies a hidden ledger of power. Coal veins snake through Appalachia and the Midwest. Iron deposits anchor the Great Lakes, and oil and natural gas stretch from Texas to Alaska, scattered across the Dakotas and beyond. These reserves are neither modest nor accidental. They rank among the largest recoverable stores on Earth. The land itself hides them, patient, silent, yet potent, a hidden backbone for growth, conflict, and long-term stability. Each era of American growth has drawn from this subsurface wealth. Coal ignited the Industrial Revolution, feeding furnaces and factories. Iron hardened into steel, constructing railroads, bridges, and cities. Oil fueled engines, economies, and later, energy independence. The Permian Basin alone produces millions of barrels daily. Natural gas reserves position the nation among the world's top exporters. Geography writes a blueprint for resilience that few countries can match, shaping both economic strength and strategic autonomy. Contrast this with nations constrained by their maps. Japan imports nearly all energy. South Korea's economy depends on foreign reserves. Europe wrestles with intermittent supply, exposed when crises arise. The US, by contrast, draws from a nearly self-contained reservoir, capable of powering cities, industries, and infrastructure regardless of global upheaval. Even if trade collapses, pipelines hum quietly. Wells keep pumping. Mines continue to operate. Subsurface wealth is patient. It waits for the next moment when it will matter most. In the US, this hidden fortune is more than resources. It is a quiet guarantor of endurance, influence, and the subtle, enduring power geography bestows. Natural barriers. The continent itself is a fortress. The Appalachians rise in the east, jagged and unyielding, a barrier that delayed early expansion, but now forms a shield against threats from the coast. Farther west, the Rockies loom, towering ridges and passes that stretch from Canada to New Mexico, forbidding, isolated, and almost untouchable. Between oceans and mountains, the land is a naturally defended citadel, a terrain that dictates the movement of armies, the flow of migration, and the positioning of settlements. Its scale alone makes intrusion costly, slow, and perilous. Add the Atlantic and Pacific, and the US sits behind layers no invader can easily breach. Even modern military technology struggles against sheer distance, supply lines, and the logistical weight of an amphibious assault across thousands of miles of ocean. History confirms it. The continental United States has never faced a successful large-scale invasion. Geography itself dictates defense, shaping both strategy and expectation. Borders to the north and south reinforce this advantage. Canada shares the longest peaceful border in the world, while deserts, mountains, and open lands to the south reduce the likelihood of large-scale incursions. Compare this to other global powers. China faces multiple borders. Europe sits crowded among rivals. Russia borders more than a dozen nations. Few can match such natural insulation. Geography does not guarantee safety, but it imposes conditions few can overcome. Mountains, oceans, deserts, immutable, indifferent, and relentless. Even as alliances shift, conflicts erupt, or global influence wanes, the homeland remains shielded. The land itself becomes a sentinel, patient, silent, omnipresent, a foundation of security that endures far beyond human plans and ambitions. Maritime gateways. The United States is framed by two oceans, each a channel to the wider world. The Atlantic links it to Europe, West Africa, and North Atlantic shipping lanes. The Pacific stretches toward Asia and Oceania. These coasts are not passive lines on a map. They are portals, deep and navigable, hosting ports like New York, Norfolk, Miami, Los Angeles, and Seattle that anchor global commerce. Geography itself dictates access, unbound by treaties, alliances, or political negotiation. These shores are lifelines, natural corridors for the movement of goods, capital, and influence, shaped over millennia. Dual ocean frontage allows the U.S. to project power, move goods, and respond to crises without relying on contested straits or foreign-controlled choke points. The coastline is a strategic asset, natural and formidable. The Gulf Coast multiplies this advantage. The Port of Houston, Mississippi River Delta, and energy complexes form one of the busiest industrial corridors on Earth. Goods flow from the heartland to the ocean efficiently, reliably, invisibly. Even inland states benefit, as the rivers connect farms, factories, and cities directly to these maritime gateways. Compare this to nations without such access. Landlocked states negotiate port privileges, often at steep economic or political cost. Some coastal nations possess shallow harbors unsuitable for large vessels. Others sit far from major trade routes, leaving them vulnerable to disruption or dependency. The U.S., positioned between Europe, Asia, and Latin America, enjoys a reach and flexibility unmatched by almost any other country. Even if global institutions collapse, alliances falter, or shipping lanes become contested, geography ensures the doors remain open. Ports remain, rivers carry cargo, and oceans buffer threats. These maritime corridors operate silently, independent of politics, wars, or ideology. In America, coasts are not merely edges, they are conduits of power, permanent gateways that guarantee trade, sustain growth, and allow influence to endure long after other forces have faded. The land itself enforces opportunity, quietly, relentlessly, and without question. Demographic engine. Power is not measured solely in land or resources. It pulses in populations, the people who inhabit a nation, move through it, and shape it. The United States holds a quiet advantage few other developed nations can claim: a steadily growing, diverse population that fuels labor, innovation, and long-term economic dynamism. Birth rates, immigration, and economic magnetism combine to sustain one of the most resilient demographic profiles in the world. Contrast this with nations where decline looms. Japan, South Korea, Italy, and much of Eastern Europe face shrinking, aging populations, straining social systems, and labor markets. The U.S., in contrast, continues to expand, maintaining a workforce capable of sustaining industries, cities, and innovation pipelines, even when global disruptions strike. Youth, adaptability, and mobility are distributed across vast, temperate regions that favor settlement and productivity. Climate compounds this advantage. Temperate zones dominate, historically supporting stable agriculture, livable conditions, and dense population centers from the Northeast to the Midwest and West Coast. Even previously marginal regions, like the Sun Belt, flourish under modern infrastructure and abundant energy, absorbing growth and redistributing population across the continent. Geography allows internal migration with remarkable flexibility. People move from city to city, region to region, seeking opportunity or escaping adversity. Snowbelt to sunbelt, coasts to heartland, the land accommodates adaptation. Even if global alliances fracture or trade falters, the nation's demographic engine continues to hum, silently propelling growth, stability, and resilience. Population is power, and America's map ensures there is enough to sustain it. Continental market. The United States is not merely a nation, it is a continent-sized marketplace, a self-contained engine of goods, labor, and capital. Spanning nearly 4 million square miles, it hosts diverse climates, industries, and urban centers, all connected by highways, railroads, rivers, ports, and a shared currency. Borders do not constrain internal trade. The map itself facilitates cohesion. From the tech corridors of Silicon Valley to the agricultural belts of Iowa and Illinois, and from the industrial heart of the Great Lakes to energy hubs in Texas and Louisiana, production and consumption interlock seamlessly. This integration creates resilience. When one region falters, others compensate. A drought in the Midwest challenges agriculture, but energy flows from the Gulf. Manufacturing dips in the Great Lakes, yet West Coast tech hubs surge. Even niche industries, from aerospace in Washington state to auto production in Michigan, feed into the broader network. Internal balance allows shocks to be absorbed, unlike nations dependent on volatile external markets. Geography underpins this engine. Southern states provide year-round logistics. Midwestern plains anchor food production. The Northeast drives finance, while the Northwest and Southwest connect with two oceans. Rivers such as the Mississippi and Ohio serve as trade superhighways. Ports like Houston, New Orleans, and Los Angeles integrate inland and coastal economies. The system is diversified, flexible, and efficient, making the United States capable of weathering disruptions that would cripple other economies. Even if global trade slows or foreign markets contract, domestic demand ensures continuity. Few nations enjoy a homegrown network of consumption and production on this scale. Geography provides both space and connectivity, creating an economic resilience rarely achieved. The continent itself becomes a buffer, a silent guarantor of stability. Power does not depend entirely on alliances or exports. It is encoded in rivers, highways, ports, farmland, and cities, spanning thousands of miles. When the world shifts, the internal engine keeps turning, quietly, inexorably, as if the land itself insists on sustaining influence. Map limitations. To grasp the US's advantage, consider the nations constrained by their own geography. Each country's potential is shaped by the contours of its land, the limits of its resources, and the pathways allowed by its terrain. Some are fortunate, others are restrained. Japan, for instance, is mountainous, resource-poor, and reliant on maritime imports for energy and food. Its economy is formidable, yet the land ensures vulnerability. Any disruption to shipping or energy supply strikes harder than it would in a nation with self-contained abundance. Europe is a patchwork of borders pressed close together, short rivers, and dependence on external energy sources. Centuries of conflict reveal how geography can amplify fragility. China's challenges differ: massive population, but limited arable land, deserts, and mountains constrain growth. Its industrial centers depend on imports, while its long, exposed coastlines invite contestation. Landlocked nations, Kazakhstan, Bolivia, Ethiopia, Switzerland, face structural dependence on neighbors for access to ports and markets. Geography dictates the parameters within which power operates. Contrast this with the United States: fertile plains, abundant energy basins, wide rivers, deep ports, and coastlines opening to two oceans. The map provides freedom, resources, and connectivity unmatched anywhere else. Internal mobility, energy security, and agricultural capacity buffer against shocks others cannot survive. Viewed globally, U.S. geography is not merely fortunate, it is a structural advantage, quietly shaping economic strength, population growth, and resilience. The map itself is a foundation of power. While others wrestle with the limitations written into their land, America's borders, rivers, plains, and coasts permit ambition, endurance, and influence on a scale few can match. Geography does not lie. It dictates outcomes. Bedrock of power. It is tempting, almost poetic, to credit America's might entirely to its geography. Yet mountains do not forge industry, rivers do not draft treaties, and soil alone does not feed cities. Human effort translates geographic gifts into tangible power. Railroads span the Great Plains, coal-fed steel raises skyscrapers, farmland produces harvests that sustain millions, rivers channel commerce, and coasts open gateways to the world. Geography provides the stage, but humans write the script. As one geographer observes, development required both geographic endowment and human will. Geography alone was the stage. People wrote the play. Still, the land is indifferent to ambition or failure. Policies shift, governments rise and fall, alliances fracture, and wars sweep across continents. Yet the Appalachians remain silent and unyielding. The Rockies endure, their passes forbidding and remote. Rivers carve courses that predate politics, unconcerned with borders or treaties. Subsurface wealth, oil, gas, coal, iron, waits patiently, a hidden ledger of power, while plains lie fertile, uninterrupted, capable of sustaining life and industry alike. This constancy transforms the U.S. map from scenery into a foundation, an immovable framework beneath the turbulence of history. Power built on fleeting diplomacy or politics can vanish overnight. Power rooted in terrain persists. Geography does not merely frame the story. It underwrites survival, resurgence, and influence. Cities may rise and fall, armies advance and retreat, empires wax and wane, but the land endures. Mountains, rivers, plains, and coasts. These are not passive features. They are the silent arbiters of outcomes. Human ambition is transient. The land is eternal. And in that eternity lies the truest, most insidious measure of American power, quietly shaping the nation's destiny beyond the reach of human hands. Silent resilience. Here is a haunting truth. America could falter. Battles may be lost, influence ceded, economies challenged. The nation could retreat, shrink, or stumble. Yet the land endures. Geography does not surrender. Mountains remain unbroken, silent sentinels that predate empires. Rivers continue their relentless courses, carrying water, commerce, and life. Fertile plains sustain crops, feeding populations even when trade falters. Forests creep back into abandoned lands, reclaiming what humans leave behind. Beneath the surface, oil, gas, coal, and minerals lie dormant, untapped, waiting for the next moment they will shape power. Coastlines and harbors, gateways to the world, remain open, patient, and silent, holding the potential to project influence across oceans at will. History is littered with empires that crumbled, capitals razed, industries shuttered. Yet the physical world outlasts human ambition. The United States is not an abstraction. It is a continent-sized bastion, buffered by oceans, threaded by rivers, enriched by soil, and stocked with resources. Even if influence wanes, the terrain alone offers the tools for survival, recovery, and resurgence. Loss in human terms does not equal extinction in geographic terms. Plains, mountains, rivers, and coasts persist beyond politics, conflict, or fleeting global trends. Geography does not betray, it endures. Within that endurance lies a subtle, insidious power. Strength is not only in conquest or achievement, it resides in what cannot be taken away. For a nation built upon land that cannot vanish, every setback is temporary, every retreat a prelude. Geography is patient, unyielding, eternal. And so, potentially, is the United States, a force anchored not in fortune, but in the immutable certainty of the terrain itself, quietly dictating what is possible long after human plans crumble. Tanks fall, treaties fade, empires rise and crumble, but geography remains. Mountains, rivers, plains, and coasts endure, and America stands. Join us for the next discovery.